Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. Worry, it is a powerful emotion. It can keep us up at all hours of the night. It can cause our body's illness, and it can just ruin our day. Worry, it is a powerful negative emotion. But the good news is, I also believe there are specific things that we can do to reduce the worry and, with time, learn to not let worry ruin our days or even our lives. But I truly believe we are meant to have beautiful lives. It takes work, it takes courage, but if we develop these skills to overcome worry, we will find that then our lives will be filled with peace and happiness instead of worry and anxiety. So let's start with what causes us to worry. Well, our worries come from the future, not from the past. We may be worried about something in the past and how it will turn out, but it's how it will turn out in the future. That's where worries come from. We have things we want to go a certain way, and we're concerned, we're anxious, we're worried that they may not, or we're not sure what's going to happen, and we're worried about that uncertainty. And besides the future, the other element that causes us to worry is expectations. We have desires, we have a strong urging for things to go a certain way, and we're worried that they won't. And then thirdly, these worries about the future, that we want things to go a certain way, are based upon control. With our expectations, we want to control the future, but if we've lived long enough, we know that we can't, and so we worry. We want that control, but we realize there are certain things, often many things, that are out of our control. And then the fourth thing that adds to our worry is the high value we give to the things that we want to be in control of. We want things to be a certain way because they matter to us, and the more they matter to us, the more worrying can take place. Let me use an example to illustrate these 4 points. Let's say we're going to the doctor for a checkup tomorrow morning. Well, it is in the future because it's tomorrow, but we probably don't have much concern about it going a certain way. After all, it is just a checkup. And then we don't need control, again, because the doctor will examine us, and there's not much we need to control. Again, it's in the future, but we just don't have much to control. And it definitely doesn't have much high value because it's just a normal checkup, and we don't really care. We're just going to go get checked up. But now let's change the story a bit. We have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. It's in the future. But this time, the doctor appointment is about whether we have a life-threatening stage 4 cancer or not. A very different story. And we probably want it to go a certain way where it's not stage 4, it's benign, and everything will be fine. We want to control it, of course, because we want to be well, but there isn't much we can do, so we worry. But we'd like to be in control of our health, knowing that we're going to be okay. But we just can't, so the worry continues. And this appointment has a very high value because it's about our lives, and we want to live. These 2 examples really illustrate how worry gets a hold of our hearts, and we struggle. Now you may be thinking, Dr. Puff, that's a legitimate worry. And we will look at that more thoroughly very shortly. But remember, these steps of getting into worry can be for anything. It can be about a test we have tomorrow. It can be about going on a date. It can be about doing a remodel to the kitchen. And we all know this is true because we've had friends that are very worried about something, and we look at their worry and we think, that's silly. Why are you worried about that? We may even tell them that. But when it's our worry, it's a very different story. It's almost like a grip around our neck, and we just can't get it off our neck. It's suffocating us, and sometimes it gets so bad, we feel like we're going to die. That's called a panic attack. A panic attack is based all on worry, and they're horrible. They can be one of the most horrible experiences anyone can have, and yet they're based on worrying. So how do we free ourselves from these worries and live our lives well? We can. It just takes work. So let's talk about what can we do if right now or in the future we're struggling with a worry. Well, the first thing we want to do is put on our investigation hat, our scientist hat, our doctor's hat. And what I mean by that is we're going to get into gathering information and really assessing the situation well. I mean, can you imagine if your doctor, every time you went to him or her, worried about the cases that he or she was facing? They'd be exhausted. They don't, because they are more objective. They're solution-based and they're realistic. They know what they can and cannot do. And that's what they'll look at. That's what they'll present to you. And that's a course of action they're going to take. There's certain things they cannot control and certain things they can. And they focus on the things they can. And they just let go of the things they can't. Or let's use the example of a divorce lawyer. Again, in this situation, the cases that he or she have are very intense. There's a lot of emotion when there's a divorce. A lot of worrying can take place. But the lawyer doesn't fall into this habit because, again, the lawyer is focused on what are the objectives, what are the side issues, what can we do, and what can't we do. So in these two examples, it's about gathering information, assessing the situation well. I know it's in the future, but we need to assess what's going on. And then we begin to tackle the control, because control can help alleviate our worries, because we have to determine what are we in control of and what aren't we in control of. Because remember, stage 2 is wanting things to go a certain way. And that's okay, as long as we realize that it's a want. It's not, I have to have it go this way. If we have to have something go this way and we're not in control of it, then we're going to get in trouble. We're going to worry because we're worrying about things that are out of our control. We can tackle the things that are in our control, like getting chemotherapy, like getting counseling, like getting into debt collection and helping paying off our debts, whatever it may be, whatever the worry is. We can tackle it by gathering information and saying, okay, what am I in control of and what am I not in control of? Now, wanting things to go a certain way needs to be a preference, not a have to. If we say, I have to have it go this way, and life says, it doesn't have to go this way, a matter of fact, it may not, then we're going to suffer. And realizing that having things to go in a certain way is about control. We have limited control on life. Really. I mean, we all know that. We've lived long enough to realize there's a lot of things in life that just don't go the way we expected them to. And if we want to be happy, we need to say, and that's okay. Because when we fight life, we struggle. There are things that we are in control of. It is true. And those are what we focus on. And then when we've done everything we can do with the things that we can control, then we say, okay, now I'm going to focus on the here and now. I'm going to enjoy what's before me because there's nothing else I can do. So then we focus on the things before us. Because when we say, I have to be in control of certain things that we aren't in control of, there's a strong potential to suffer. And instead if we say, okay, I think these are the things I have some control over, and it may be very little, but I'll work on them, and the things I don't, I just will let it go and let the circumstances unfold the way they do. We are resilient human beings. We can survive, we can thrive in any situation, really. But we have to let go of wanting things to go a certain way. The control factor of life, I believe, is fairly limited. But what we do have control over is saying, whatever you give me, life, I'm going to make this work. What we have control over is our responses to life. There's many things in life we just cannot control. But we control our reaction to life. That we do. And so, with the fourth thing, high value, what we want to make our high value is happiness, not control, not things going a certain way. But we want our high value to be, I want to be happy. And we're going to be happy when we stop fighting life, When we do what we can do, we work on the things that we can control, and then we say, whatever you give me, life, I choose happiness. And that's our value. Not our value that I have to have a certain amount of money in the bank. Not our value that I have to live a certain amount of years. Not our controlling how many children we have or what type of house we have. Fill in the blank. We are trying so hard to control so many things, and yet we know people that have these things that aren't happy. And we know people that don't have these things that are happy. So then we realize that what we're in control of is our response. And we begin to really relax about the externals. And we focus far more over what we can control, the internals, our responses to life. And a lot of that comes from having one high value, and that is to have peace and happiness in our hearts. Not, it has to be a certain way, we have to have this in order for us to be that. We just are going to be that. And I would argue, when we let go of control, when we say, life, there are things that I would like, but whatever you give me, I'm going to embrace. I will work towards things that are important to me, but again, whatever you give me, I will learn to love. It's when we fight life that we suffer. When we say, life, I did everything I could do to make this situation go the way that I would prefer, but it didn't, and that's okay. I will now make this work. It isn't that we can't work towards things. We can work towards many things in the future, but instead of focusing on the worry, it's more a sense of play, a sense of joy. I would like that to happen. That would be great. And I'll do things in my control to make that happen. If I want to become a lawyer, I'll go to law school, but maybe I won't get in. That's okay. I'll find something else to do. If I want to be a doctor, I'll go to medical school, but if I don't get in, there's lots of other things I can do. If I want to be a mother or a father, and for whatever reason, I'm not able to, that's okay. There's so many other beautiful things I can do. There's always a response to anything life can give us. But when we understand what are we in control of and what are we not in control of, then we can relax because we stop fighting life. Because we realize that when we relax, we discover that our natural state is one of peace and happiness. It's when we try to control life, when we worry, that we struggle. When we let go of that control, we just stop struggling. I mean, think about a young teenager who has almost nothing. They're poor. They don't have any family yet. They have no career. They haven't succeeded much at anything. And yet they can be very happy. And someone else can have all those things much later in life and be utterly miserable. And why is that? It's because worry is in our head. When we realize that, we also realize the solution is also in our minds. And we stop struggling with life because we do these steps. We gather information, then we realize what we are in control of and what we're not in control of. And then we do what we need to do right now. And then we let it go. And we just wait for the outcome, realizing that whatever the outcome is, what's most important is not having too much value on a certain outcome that we can't control. Far better to say, life, whatever you give me, I will work towards accepting that. And not only that, loving that. We can have pretty worry-free lives, but our value has to be on that. Being peaceful. When we choose to be in control, we will suffer. But if we choose to respond well to whatever life gives us, then we'll find the peace that is always there, welcoming us home. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. Besides creating this podcast, there are a variety of other things that I do. If you'd like to keep abreast of these activities, and perhaps someday we may be able to meet in person, just go to www.happinesspodcast.org. That's happinesspodcast.org. You can subscribe to my newsletter, and if you do, you'll be emailed a free PDF copy of my meditation book called Reflections on Meditation. And until next time, accept what is, love what is. Do you ever wonder why some companies do so well, grow, and just seem to keep coming up with great ideas and keep expanding, while other companies are permeated with negativity, lawsuits, employee turnover, and just overall unhappiness in the workplace? Whichever corporate camp you find yourself in, or somewhere in between, the key to any company's ongoing success is to invest in and help their employees perform at their peak performance. There are very clear and specific things that people can do to perform well at work and in life in general. This is the focus of my podcast, and it's also the focus of my work. Being at the cutting edge of any market is sustained through investment in training employees how to perform well. But sustained growth and productivity requires specific psychological tools in order to continue to perform at peak levels. This is where I can help. I've been studying peak performance for over 30 years now, helping people all over the world. And there are very specific things that have to be maintained in order to sustain this level of performance. When companies invest in their employees are invested in them. Unfortunately, it's quite common for companies to be doing exceptionally well in the marketplace, but for unknown reasons, key employees make poor choices, leave the company, or start struggling and coping with stress-related illnesses. Companies that do well know their business really well, but human behavior works in mysterious ways unless you've been trained to understand the causes and cures of underperformance. If you're a forward-thinking company, perhaps it's time to think about giving your employees skills that may really help them perform well at work and throughout their lives. If you work for or manage a company, and you're ready to learn the skills in order to survive and thrive in any market, in any conditions, or in life in general, I'd love to help. These are the skills I've learned. These are the ones I'd love to bring to your company. True lasting success has to be seen from a broader perspective, not just monetary. And if you're ready to bring about these changes, that's where I can help. To learn more, go to www.successbeyondyourimaginationcom. That's successbeyondyourimaginationcom. And whether we're at the doorstep of retirement or have many years to go, may we always be growing and be developing our skills not only as successful employees, but as successful human beings.